The sun rises over America's heartland, casting long shadows across endless rows of corn stretching to the horizon. But today, those shadows tell a different story. The mighty American corn empire, once the breadbasket of the world, is crumbling in an unprecedented turn of events that's sending shockwaves through global markets. Major international buyers are rejecting U.S. corn shipments while Canada secures billion-dollar deals for its trusted, clean crops. Picture this: massive cargo ships filled with American corn, turned away at ports across Asia and Europe. Farmers watching helplessly as their life's work sits rotting in silos. Meanwhile, just across the border, Canadian farmers are celebrating record-breaking contracts. This isn't just another market fluctuation, it's a seismic shift in global agricultural power that's reshaping the future of food security. The numbers are staggering. In the past 6 months alone, over $3.2 billion worth of U.S. corn shipments have been rejected. That's enough corn to feed 100 million people for a year. The reason? It's not just about price anymore. It's about trust, transparency, and a fundamental shift in how the world views food security. While America clings to outdated practices and political gridlock, Canada has quietly revolutionized its agricultural sector, becoming the new gold standard in global grain trade. Let's take you to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where third-generation farmer James McKenzie stands in his field, his calloused hands running through unharvested corn stalks. "My grandfather survived the Dust Bowl," he says, his voice heavy with emotion. "My father made it through the '80s farm crisis. But this is different. We're not just losing money, we're losing our place in the world." The crisis isn't confined to farm country. In Chicago's trading floors, where corn futures once drove billions in daily transactions, screens flash red as prices plummet below production costs. Grain elevators across the Midwest sit eerily quiet. Trucking companies that once ran 24/7 hauling corn from field to port are parking their fleets. Small towns that depended on the corn economy are watching their communities dissolve as businesses close and families move away. But to understand how we got here, we need to look at what Canada did right. 10 years ago, Canada launched an ambitious program called Clean Crop Initiative. While U.S. politicians argued about climate change and trade policies, Canadian farmers were implementing cutting-edge sustainable practices. They invested in blockchain technology to track every bushel from seed to sale. They reduced chemical inputs by 40% while maintaining yields. They built trust with international buyers through unprecedented transparency and consistency. The results? While American corn sits unsold, Canadian grain terminals are working overtime. In Vancouver's port, ships line up to load Canadian corn bound for premium markets in Asia and Europe. Last week, Japan signed a $5 billion, 5-year exclusive deal for Canadian corn. South Korea followed with a $3.2 billion contract. China, traditionally America's largest corn buyer, has shifted 70% of its purchases to Canadian sources. The human cost of this shift is devastating. In small towns like Broken Bow, Nebraska, the impact ripples through every aspect of community life. The local diner, once packed with farmers discussing crop prices over coffee, now serves barely enough customers to keep the lights on. The high school has cut its agriculture program, a program that ran continuously since 1923. The John Deere dealership that employed 50 people now operates with a skeleton crew of 8. Sarah Thompson, a 4th-grade teacher in Marion, Indiana, shares a heartbreaking reality. "I have students coming to school hungry because their parents lost farm-related jobs. These are proud families who never asked for help before. Now they're choosing between buying food and keeping the lights on." The technical aspects of this crisis are equally troubling. American corn storage facilities, built for a different era, are struggling to maintain quality standards required by modern buyers. Without proper climate control and monitoring systems, corn quality deteriorates rapidly. Meanwhile, Canadian storage facilities use AI-driven climate control systems and real-time quality monitoring, ensuring every shipment meets exact specifications. Transportation infrastructure tells a similar story. While U.S. grain trains run on aging tracks with frequent delays, Canada has invested billions in a modern rail system specifically designed for grain transport. Their ports feature automated loading systems that can fill a cargo ship in half the time of their American counterparts, all while maintaining strict quality controls. The political response has been tragically predictable. In Washington, lawmakers debate band-aid solutions while the agricultural heartland bleeds out. One proposed bill would increase corn subsidies, missing entirely the point that the world no longer wants what we're selling. Another suggests trade restrictions on Canadian imports. which would likely accelerate the crisis by triggering retaliatory measures. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, an agricultural economist at Cornell University, explains the fundamental shift. This isn't about price competition anymore. It's about meeting modern market demands for transparency, sustainability, and reliability. Canada understood this years ago and built their system around these principles. The US kept assuming our historical dominance would protect us. That assumption has now failed spectacularly. The environmental angle can't be ignored. Canadian farmers have reduced their carbon footprint by 35% while maintaining productivity. They've implemented regenerative agriculture practices that actually improve soil health over time. U.S. farms, under pressure to maximize short-term yields, have continued practices that deplete soil and increase chemical dependency. In Minnesota's Red River Valley, where cornfields once stretched unbroken to the horizon, signs of the crisis are everywhere. Empty grain elevators loom like industrial ghosts. Farm equipment auctions have become weekly events. Multi-generation family farms are being sold to investment corporations that see the land as mere financial assets. The contrast with Canadian success is stark. In Saskatchewan, new grain handling facilities are under construction. Young farmers are entering the profession, attracted by stable contracts and sustainable practices. Agricultural technology startups are flourishing, developing innovations in crop monitoring, soil health, and supply chain management. But perhaps most telling is the psychological impact. American farmers, once proud stewards of the world's most productive agricultural system, are questioning their very identity. We used to feed the world, says Tom Wilson, a fifth-generation farmer from Illinois. Now the world doesn't trust us to feed them. That hits harder than any financial loss. The crisis has exposed deep structural problems in American agriculture. Years of focusing on quantity over quality, resistance to environmental concerns, and slow adoption of new technologies have left U.S. farms vulnerable. While Canada embraced change, America assumed its position was unassailable. The banking sector is feeling the tremors. Rural banks, heavily invested in farm loans, are facing a potential crisis as farmers struggle to make payments. Some analysts predict a wave of farm bankruptcies that could exceed the 1980s farm crisis. The difference? In the 80s, there was a clear path to recovery. Today, the market has fundamentally shifted. Canadian success isn't just about government policy, it's about cultural adaptation. Canadian farmers embraced change, invested in education, and built relationships with international buyers based on trust and transparency. They created a brand that represents quality, sustainability, and reliability. The impact on rural communities goes beyond economics. Churches report declining attendance as families move away. School enrollments are dropping. Mental health services, already scarce in rural areas, are overwhelmed with farmers facing depression and anxiety. The social fabric of rural America, woven through generations of agricultural stability, is unraveling. But there are lessons to be learned. Some American farmers are attempting to adapt, implementing Canadian-style practices and seeking new market niches. In Iowa, a cooperative of 50 farmers has invested in blockchain tracking and sustainable practices. They're small, but they're finding buyers willing to pay premium prices for trusted, traceable corn. The future remains uncertain. Some experts believe the U.S. can recover by rapidly modernizing its agricultural practices and rebuilding trust with international buyers. Others think the shift is permanent, that Canada's decade-long investment in agricultural innovation has created an insurmountable advantage. What's clear is that this crisis represents more than a market shift. It's a wake-up call about the changing nature of global agriculture. The world no longer just wants food, it wants food with a story, with transparency, with environmental responsibility. Canada understood this. America didn't. As the sun sets over America's Corn Belt, the questions loom larger than ever. Can the U.S. agricultural system adapt quickly enough to survive? Will family farms become a relic of the past? And perhaps most importantly, what happens to the millions of Americans whose lives are intertwined with corn production? The answers will shape not just the future of American agriculture, but the very nature of rural life in America. Meanwhile, Canada continues to sign new contracts, build new facilities, and strengthen its position as the world's most trusted grain supplier. This isn't just about corn, it's about trust, adaptation, and the price of complacency. It's about communities, families, and the changing face of global agriculture. And for millions of Americans caught in this crisis, it's about survival. The world is watching as this agricultural drama unfolds. The outcome will determine not just the future of American farming, but the global balance of agricultural power for generations to come. The question isn't whether change will come, it's whether America can change fast enough to remain relevant in the new world of agriculture.